For more, we are joined by our International Affairs Editor, Angela Diffley. Angela, good to have you with us this morning. The national conversation, it appears to be turning away somewhat from the tragedy earlier this week and towards the breakdown in law and order that we're seeing on the streets of cities across the country. More than 600 people arrested last night. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening, just a little bit of the context there.
Yes, just before we do that, a reminder, the police officer concerned has apparently said sorry to the family and that he did not intend to kill the 17-year-old. That's a separate piece of information. He is now in police custody, in prison, awaiting trial. And in a sense, that is a separate development. Meanwhile, the rioting has escalated and morphed really into something else. There is talk about an insurrectional climate, a climate of revolution. That said, there is no leader to this, and a number of senior security people have pointed out that revolutions are usually led by leaders. This has no clear leader, no clear aim, and appears to be morphing into something closer to general rioting. We saw a huge amount of looting, pillaging of ordinary businesses, some high-end shops, some ordinary businesses. Again, numerous public buildings burnt down, but also very many shops and private places burned down last night, a lot of pillaging and looting. And so it has morphed into something else. So far, we have no polls on what public opinion thinks of this, but it is beginning with a glance again at talk shows, at social media, at what people are saying around and about. It is dividing along political lines, more or less. Those on the left are saying that this is a long-standing problem in France, that it is important to note that in France, they do not collect statistics in censuses, for example, on people's ethnic background. That is an important thing to note. It's not the case in very many countries around the world, but France, after the Second World War, where the results of knowing people's ethnicity led to what it led to, in France, ethnic background is never officially noted. That said, there are some very well publicised experiments which have shown that people from certain ethnic backgrounds tend to be discriminated against when they apply for jobs on CVs, if there is a photo, or when they apply for housing. So at an unofficial level, they appear to be experiencing discrimination. People on the left are highlighting that and saying something needs to be done. On the right, people are saying that this is the 10th. There have already been 10 Marshall Plans for these banlieues, these areas on the outskirts of French towns and cities, often ethnically diverse, low-income populations. 10 different plans have been implemented there with little result. They also note that during lockdown, these areas weren't policed as heavily as other areas, and they say everybody should be treated in the same way. And this is very much the argument of Marine Le Pen on the far right.
Now, President Macron, he's told another crisis cabinet meeting at lunchtime. What are the options open to the government at this stage?
Very many people on the right are calling for the imposition of a state of emergency. I don't know if we have a graphic on that. A state of emergency would have to be voted by Parliament, but it would give the government certain rights. It would give it the power to impose curfews and the power to close the borders and to stop gatherings. It has been imposed. It was imposed the last time there were significant riots in France in 2005, but after quite a few days of rioting. And it was imposed again in 2015 after the Charlie Hebdo terrorist attacks. So there are calls for that. The government is not likely to do it. It might do further down the line if it cannot get this thing under control. There is a huge amount of criticism. The government is being told to get this under control. Not least, France is holding the World Cup rugby in a few months and the Olympics next year. Emmanuel Macron has only just emerged from a period of extreme violence, again, on the margins of pension protests and protests around environmental demonstrations. Extreme violence on the margins of of both of those. And there is a lot of call for a restoration of straightforward law and order.